You're listening to Marketing Talks. Digital marketers and entrepreneurs talk about work, life, and more. Hosted by Daniel Moore.
Hi everyone, welcome to my show. I'm happy to have you here today. I'm honored to present my talented friend and ex-colleague Omri Peled, who's a formerly full-stack developer at Yotpo. He worked there together. Nowadays, he's managing Bllink, a startup he founded himself, which is a fintech solution for residential buildings. Omri, so nice to have you today. How are you doing these days?
Hey Daniel, great to be here. I'm great, thanks.
Awesome. So, why don't you present yourself briefly? Your background. What did you study? How did you get to where you are today? Including like the path and places you've been through, including Yotpo, and so on and so forth.
Great. So, as you said, I worked at Yotpo, and I've been programming since I was 13. So I got like the average road of any Israeli programmer. So I got 2 degrees in computer science. I was in the intelligence corps in the army for about 5 years. I worked in the high-tech industry for a few companies, and I sold another product that I developed to an Israeli corporate a few years ago, and I started Bllink.
Okay, that's sweet. I didn't know that you exited a product, back in the days. How old were you back then?
So I think it was about 3 years before I came to Yotpo. I sold it to Zap Group, which is the largest Israeli corporation, and it was also a fintech product.
Okay, that's sweet. That's nice. So yeah, as I said, we actually met each other while working for Yotpo, and ever since, we went on different paths. So I'm curious to know about your transition from being a team member, a coder, someone who writes code most of the day, to starting your own company, initiating something from scratch, being like a startupist and then grow the business and hire and manage people. The entire shift from the core tech role towards biz dev and management type of role. Why don't you tell us, me and the listeners, how did you go about it?
So entrepreneurship is something that was always very attractive for me. And sometimes I'm doing lectures for students in universities, and I ask them, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? And I get a lot of funny answers. So some of the students tell me that being an entrepreneur is someone who has employees or someone who is the CEO. And for me, being an entrepreneur is just being open to the world for any problems or issues that may occur, and to think, how can I solve this with technology? And when I started Bllink, it came from a personal story of mine as a tenant in a building in Tel Aviv. And from that on, I started Bllink.
That's great. That leads me to the next question. Actually, maybe it's time for you to introduce Bllink to me and the listeners. The product, who is it for? Is it meant for the building itself, or is it for the management companies? What's its main added value? What brought you to start it? And most importantly, when did you realize that you have a winner?
So let's start with what Bllink does. So what we do, we provide a financial platform for buildings. We help the building manage all the financial aspect with a technological platform that takes all the manual processes and just transform it into automatic processes. So before I explain exactly what the platform does and what kind of actions can it help do, let's start before that. Why, from the first place, buildings needs money? So building needs money in order to keep the building well managed. So it starts from the day-to-day management, building, cleaning, gardening, elevator, etc., and it ends with general management of the building. Renovation, fixing different systems and machines in the building. And building is very expensive to manage. Before 5 or 10 years, building management wasn't that complex. So there was small buildings with, let's say, 20, 30 apartments, not a lot of equipment or complex systems in the building. But today it's totally different. Buildings that we have today, they have a lot of apartments, a lot of different machines and systems, like underground parking lots and electronic cars chargers, lots of elevators. And the building's monthly budget went up by 400% only in the past 5 years, which means that today it's almost impossible to do manual management for all the finance of the building. And this is exactly what we do.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, do you have that passion for real estate, like, for a lifetime? Were you always interested in that, or was it a pain? You said there was a pain when you lived in Tel Aviv. I also live in Tel Aviv, so I know the various pains of living in Tel Aviv. Most of the, let's say, decent percentage of the buildings are old and somewhat badly maintained. So did you have anything particular for real estate, or was it just, like went with the flow until you ran into an issue that you thought you could resolve?
So my personal story, it started when I just moved into Tel Aviv. So I moved into Kikar Rabin, a standard building, let's say a 60 or 70-year-old building with 20 apartments, nothing fancy. And in my first week in that building, the building's manager came to me and he told me I need to pay my management fees. It was something around $50 a month, and I need to make it on a monthly payment. And I said, sure, no problem. He explained exactly what the money is going for. And I told him that I'm going to pay every month. And I didn't pay for about 5 months. Not because I didn't want to, because every time he tried to collect, I had a different excuse. So I didn't have checks in my checkbooks, and I don't have cash, and I'm late with the dog to the vet. And after 5 months, I came back home one day, and I found my name in the lobby of the building. So they tried to shame me into paying, and that worked very well for them. So the moment I saw my name in the lobby of the building, I felt two things. So the first thing I felt was embarrassment. I was the new guy in the building, and as the new guy, I didn't want my name to be in the lobby. The second thing I felt was there's something wrong in this process. If I really want to pay and the building needs my money, so there's some kind of issue if I can't make the payment. And then I just paid my debt for the building, of course, and I volunteered to manage the building by myself. I managed the building for about 1 year until I started Bllink.
Right. So here's a lesson for you kids. Shaming does work. Of course, I'm kidding. All right, that's a good way. That's a good way to start something. I mean, like, feeling your own pain. Okay, so ever since, so you basically built something like, on your demand, something that fits your needs, like some sort of a solution that you started using yourself in your own building.
Exactly. So I was my first customer, and at first when I built it. The intention was to just make my life easier as a building manager. So I was my first customer, so it was suited to my needs. And when I finished building the platform, and I'll explain a little bit better what the platform does. So as I said, we provide a financial platform for buildings, and we operate in 3 layers in the building. So we manage all the collection of the payments from the tenants or the owners of the apartments. We manage all the payouts to different vendors of the building, and we also have a layer of the accounting. So we provide all different reports, invoices, receipts, balance sheet report, bank reconciliation, everything that involves with finance of the building, we provide it in our platform. So when I started, I was the first customer of the platform. So I built it to my needs, and my needs were for a 20 apartments building, 60-year-old in Tel Aviv. And after I saw it was very successful in my own building, I went on to a journey of Bootstrap for about 2 years, and I had to verify 2 main things. So the first thing was if I have a product market fit, or if this product only fits for this specific building. And the second thing I wanted to verify was the business model. And then I had a lot of trial and errors with the business model to get to a perfect fit.
Right. And what's your business model today?
So our first business model is to take a commission for every transaction. Just like any other fintech company, from Stripe to PayPal to Payoneer, we take a percentage for every transaction that goes through our platform. So every time a tenant pays directly to his building, we take a commission. And every time a building pays to a vendor, we take a commission. Our second business model is to provide additional products and services on top of our data. So we have lots of tenants using our platform, and we have a direct contact to every tenant. We also have all the details of the tenants and all the details of the building. So it provides us the opportunity to provide them a lot of services and products. Most of them are financial services and products, just like insurance, microloans, real estate broker, etc.
That's great business development model, I gotta say. Affiliation to additional services. Now I want to talk to you a bit about the go-to market. So it seems like it's a good niche. It is. I think in Israel it's pretty much like it's not very organized. I think in the world, if you go to more OECD developed countries, you would find even bigger market with like more like structured, organized way of doing stuff. Um, how did you decide on the go-to market in terms of who do you try to reach out to? Is it the buildings themselves, which obviously impacts marketing efforts taken, or is it the agencies?
So today we have, when I just started and I was bootstrap, I did a single sell every time. I went building by building, trying to sell the platform to the building manager, and it was a very, very difficult task. So I think that the first 50 buildings that I went to, they just threw me out the stairs every time.
Luckily, they haven't thrown you from the top of the building. Okay, what happened? How did you proceed from there?
Yeah, and in 2 years I got to 200 buildings, and I think I went building by building just to get the 200. I think I went to 400 buildings, something like that. It was very, very hard.
Okay, so great to hear about like numbers are crazy. I mean, very nice growth. And you, I mean, where do you get the inspiration to, um, you know, to do this entrepreneurship? Not for the first time, obviously. Where do you get the drive? Is it something you grew up on? Is it like a, I don't know, content you listen to? What drives you to do business, run business, grow business?
So my inspiration comes, first of all, when I see what we build and when I hear feedback from customers and they tell us that we really changed the way that they operate on their building. That really inspires me to think that we can make a change and really touch people and make their life a little bit better. And when there's a lot of challenges, of course, I get a lot of inspiration from other people's stories. So I get it from different podcasts that I listen to and different TV series about other companies. But I can tell you one Netflix series that I really get inspired from, and it's The Last Dance of Michael Jordan. I watched that series, I think, 8 times in a row. And the story of Michael Jordan and how they present it in The Last Dance, it's really inspired me that even when things are tough, just to never back down and keep on going.
Yeah, The Last Dance was great. I think our generation who grew up on Michael Jordan, for us, it's really, empowering TV show. I want to take this opportunity to recommend a podcast by a friend of mine, which is a disclaimer. It's called Successful Scales by Yoni Kozminski. Yoni hosts different entrepreneurs, business owners who manage to successfully scale and grow their businesses, their startups. Every time a different person, super duper talented, very well served, and highly educating. So Omri, keep going. I mean, what happened then? How did you guys proceed from there?
After the first fundraising, so I brought in a salesman who leads all the sales in Israel. And then we just started selling B2B. So we're doing the sales to property management companies, and we get two benefits from out of it. The first one is that in a single sale, we can get between 5 to 100 buildings in a single sale. The second thing is that our platform allows them to grow, and when they grow, we grow organically with them. So today this is our go-to market. I think that 95% of our buildings are managed by property management companies. We have over 150 property management companies that work with our platform.
That's insane. I like the way you presented it, like the groundwork that you had to do yourself in the beginning. I think it's a critical part of being an entrepreneur. Super duper impressive. Um,
Yeah,
so how?
I think that there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages for being a bootstrap company, especially if you're a single founder. And the advantage part of it is that every role that each and every one of the employees in the company do, I did it for 2 years. So I know exactly for each employee here exactly what they do, and that helps me to manage them better.
But in some phase, you expect your employee to take over to you know essentially create their own methodologies and workflows, which are essentially better or more granular or more fundamental than what you've performed, right?
Definitely the processes that they do here are much better than things I did in the beginning. But I know exactly what the customer needs and what's the fundamentals of their job title. So that helps me just getting them start, and obviously they need to take it in their own direction and develop it.
All right, I like that all around approach that you're capable of doing what everyone else, like all the other people you work next to, are doing. Um, so let's talk about timeline a little bit. So Blink was founded roughly not too long before the COVID unexpectedly hit the world. Um, is that correct to say?
It's exactly, we started in April 2020. So I think
Right.
it's a month after the COVID hit.
All right. So it's actually okay. So you mean like officially you started a month after the COVID hit, but
Yeah.
probably you were building the thing beforehand. I wanted to know the impact, the implications, if anything. I'm sure there is, that you felt, or you and whoever was there with you back in the day. And I want you to specifically elaborate on the fact that we're talking about an online solution to a traditional, like physical pain, which is shared building management. That
Exactly.
very thin line of the integration between the online world, the internet, and the physical life of resolving a problem. How did the COVID affected Bllink?
So, in that way, COVID helped to increase a lot of different processes regarding offline processes that transformed into online processes. And we see it not only in Blink, but in different companies and different processes all around the world. For us, definitely it helped. So we scaled very, very fast in the COVID. I can tell you that because our first fundraising round was just when the COVID started to hit the Israeli market. So we came unprepared for COVID. If COVID was, let's say, 1 year after our first funding round, I think that the scale that we did in the COVID time was maybe 2 or 3x better than what we did. So the COVID was very helpful for us to increase and rapid processes, but I think it caught us off guard, and we just started the business. So we didn't have a good user experience, and the platform wasn't complete yet. And we were still in that stage that we were building our own internal processes, and it was very hard for us to duplicate and expedite it because of the COVID. So I think that if it was a year after our first funding round, the results were much better than it was, but still it helped us a lot.
So doing startup while COVID is present, taking all the COVID implications in mind, considering each and every implication, restrictions and so on and so forth, or like budget restraints. Yeah, it sounds pretty hard. Yeah, good for you. Very nice. So how do you do marketing these days? You said that you have a salesperson that's been with you ever since the early days till today, who's responsible for all the Israeli market. Um,
Yes.
how is marketing being done? How do you get the word out there besides referrals, besides existing business, bringing in more business and so on?
So today we operate in two continents. So we operate in the Israeli market and we also operate in Central America. And the marketing and sales is very similar in both locations. We do mainly B2B sales. Our marketing is in the industries and the arenas that our customers are at. We do a lot of marketing in conferences. We do a lot of marketing in places that we can find our customers at. We have a lot of collaborations with constructors and different real estate industry people. So this is mainly how we get our name out. When you do B2B sales, it's very important that you will build your brand, and that especially when you're providing a financial product, that the customers will feel comfortable enough and they will trust you in order to start working with you. Today, when we have over 150 property management companies, it's easier task to do. There's a lot of references that we can give to a new customers, but it's mainly B2B sales, direct sales to the property management companies.
Impressive. Okay, that's good to know. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to play a little game with you. That's called
You don't say.
I want you to tell me, and the audience, of course, something no one knows about you. It could be work or non-work related stuff. Something we would find amused to learn about you as a person. Go ahead.
So I'm going to tell you something that it's about the business, and it's from the early days of the business. And I don't think that anyone knows it. I don't think that even employees in the company knows about it.
All
so
right.
It's funny to hear what they think after they listen to this podcast. But in the early days, we were 3 employees in the company, and it was by the end of the year. I think it was 2 years ago, and we didn't have tons of customers. I think we operated at the time about 500 or 600 buildings. So it was big enough customer base. And as you said before, I used to write code all the time. And I was a programmer. And when we worked together, so you knew me as a programmer, but I
With the
didn't write
soul of
code.
entrepreneur. Programmer with the soul of entrepreneur. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the thing is that I didn't write code for a long time. And even though there were 3 employees and we had programmers, I insisted to write code because I really love it, and I insisted on doing it. And the thing that I broke at the time was so crucial, and it almost caused the company to shut down. So I wrote a piece of code, and that code went crazy, and it just started charging lots of credit cards for random people.
Oh my God.
And I think we had charges in millions. Okay, it was millions. In a few hours, we charged millions of shekels, or like, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars for thousands of people. And
That's insane.
It's insane. And after 3 hours, and I didn't know that code is running. And after about 3 hours, I got a call from the credit card companies, and they said, "What's going on?" And I told them nothing. Why? And they told me that things are going crazy, and that there's a lot of charges that's coming from our company. And that almost shut us down, but we managed to handle everything. We didn't have any weekend that day. So it took us about 5 days to fix everything. We were 3 people at the time, but no one left the office for about 5 days after we fixed everything. It almost caused us to shut down. But we learned a lot from that incident. So.
Oh my God, that's insane. That's an insane story. Actually, that's a great kickoff for my, new game, You Don't Say, which I'm going to play with everyone else. Yeah, okay. So it's not that no one knows it. There are 2 more people in the, in the planet that know about this story. So yeah, it goes with them. Um, all right, that's cool. So Omri, where are you going to be in 5 years from now?
It's a great question.
Are you a
What will, what
serial? You
a,
sound to me like a serial entrepreneur. Obviously, you told me about things you've done and so on. Yeah, what do you think the future has for you? In 5 years from now.
so our mission in Bllink is to empower buildings and to empower tenants and apartment owners. And in 5 years from now, I want to get to more buildings, more apartments in different geographic locations. And this is where I want to be. I want to have multiple locations and as many buildings and as many apartments that we can help to help them manage their day-to-day finance in the buildings.
All right, that's a blessing, a blessed initiative to get things more organized around buildings, as we know it here in Israel. I'm sure, like I said, abroad it's pretty different. How different is it, by the way? You said that you're operating currently. You're operating in other countries as well, right? Like, could you list them
Yeah.
briefly and say a little bit about them?
Yeah, so the ecosystem of building management, two kinds of ecosystems when we're talking about building management. So there's the ecosystem as we know here in the Israeli market, and there's a lot of countries that work exactly the same. A lot of countries in Europe and in Asia and in Central America. There's another ecosystem which works similar to how it works in North America, and then you have multiple types of buildings, and there's different ownership and management for those buildings. Today we operate in the ecosystems that we know from the Israeli market. So we operate in Europe, we operate in Central America, in similar ecosystems. Right now and in 2023, we're looking to get into North America and into that ecosystem. It will require us to do adjustments for our products, and we feel we're ready to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, good for you. Thank you so much, Omri Peled. That was so insightful. I'm so happy to have you on board. Listen to your story. Listen to Bllnk's story. I also have heard that you guys are hiring technical people. So good luck with that too.
Thank you, Daniel. I enjoyed it. Good luck with the podcast. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you had a blast. I hope you learned, and see you again in the next episode.
Yeah.